The fighter on the ground can throw leg kicks and up kicks to the opponent's head. Some fighters can attempt submissions, or they can simply attempt to stand back up. While standing up, they can also shoot for a takedown. Be warned, however, that you are very vulnerable when getting to your feet and attempting a takedown, while getting up leaves you more open to attacks than a standard takedown. A fighter on his feet can throw leg kicks or drop huge punches. He can also enter the opponent's guard or perform a diving attack looking to do damage. Some fighters may also have the ability to drop down for a leg or foot submission from up down as well. Let's go ahead and work from the up-down position for this drill. Fighters have 4 basic attributes to describe their athletic ability: strength, speed, cardio, and footwork. Your strength attribute describes your fighter's raw physical power. It affects how much damage you deal with strikes and how effectively you can perform every action from transitions to takedowns to submissions. Your speed attribute affects how quickly your fighter can throw strikes, as well as your fighter's reaction time. The cardio attribute not only affects your stamina, it also indicates your toughness and how much damage your fighter can take before being knocked out. The footwork attribute indicates how quick your fighter is on his feet. Each fighter has 9 skills that describe his technical abilities. Each skill has an offense and a defense rating. Standing strikes affect punches and elbows on the feet. A high offense means more damage with these attacks, and a high defense means they'll do less damage to your fighter. Standing kicks affects all types of kicks and knees thrown on the feet. Clinch striking affects every type of strike thrown in the clinch, whether it's a punch, an elbow, or a knee. Ground striking affects every type of strike on the mat, from knees to elbows to hammer fists. The clinch grapple affects transitions in the clinch. A high offense means it's easier to set up your attacks, and a high defense means it's easier for you to block your opponent's transitions. The takedown skill affects tackles and throws. A high offense value makes it easier to take your opponents down, and a high defense makes it easier to stuff incoming takedown attempts. The ground top grapple skill affects transitions. A high offense value makes it easier to set up your offense when you're on the top, and a high defense value makes it easier to shut down your opponent when he has top position. The ground bottom grapple skill affects all transitions from the bottom position. A high offense will make it easier to sweep your opponent, maintain guard, or scramble to your feet. A high defense will make it easier to control an opponent when he's on the bottom. The submission skill affects all submission holds from every position. A high offense makes it easier to tap an opponent, and a high defense makes it easier to defend your opponent's submission attempts. You can check fighter skills by opening the option window at the fighter selection screen. The first big difference in Pride is the use of the ring instead of a cage. You won't be able to use the fence to scramble to your feet, and the ring is much smaller than the octagon, so it's easier to get cornered by an aggressive opponent. Well done. Let's focus on kicks and knees to downed opponents. When fighting in pride fights, most of the rules are the same, although you do have the ability to perform knees to the head of downed opponents from certain ground positions. You also have the ability to perform foot stomps to the head of a downed opponent. Landing these strikes do some serious damage and can end a fight very quickly. If you're on the receiving end of a foot stomp, try blocking the opponent's attack, as this will give you a better opportunity to stand back up. Another type of kick made famous by strikers like Vanderlei Silva and Mauricio Shogun Rua is the soccer kick. These brutal strikes are extremely dangerous, but can only be used when competing in pride-style fights. Go ahead and give some of these pride strikes a try. Another rule difference in Pride is that the first round of every fight is 10 minutes long. Managing your energy is vitally important to performing well in the octagon. Quick strikes consume less energy than strong strikes, and technical strikes consume the most. If you find your fighter losing too much stamina, try to mix in quick attacks. Don't let yourself gas out. You can rest by playing defense. Hang back and guard until you've recovered enough energy to reinitiate your offense. You can also recover energy quickly by tying up your opponent in a clinch. On the ground, the quickest way to recover your energy is to get back to the base position or to transition up to a standing clinch.
Let's go, come on!
Try landing some strikes while managing your energy. Energy has a huge effect on how effective a submission attempt will be. If you have a lot more energy than your opponent, he will be much easier to tap out. If an attacker has the advantage in a submission battle, his bar will be longer and move faster than the defenders during the submission game. If the defender has the advantage, he has a good chance of escaping the submission and ending up in a dominant position. For example, if you throw a weak triangle choke attempt at a fresh opponent, don't be surprised if he escapes by picking you up and slamming you into the mat. Let's see you perform a submission while managing your energy. The direction you move can affect how much damage you take from incoming strikes. For example, if you're stepping to your right, as your opponent throws a left, you'll be walking right into his attack and take more damage. And you'll take a huge amount of damage if you dash step into an incoming strike. Keep in mind that the opposite is also true. Moving away from a strike helps to minimize the damage it does. Against a good striker, it's usually wise to circle towards his front leg and away from his power. In UFC rules, judges look favorably on takedowns in maintaining the dominant position on the ground. One of the keys to winning a close decision is to avoid being on the bottom for any length of time. The UFC uses a must-scoring system, which means the judges must declare one fighter the winner of each round, even if it's by a tiny margin. That means that a dominant round 3 won't win you the fight if your opponent barely edged you out in rounds 1 and 2. In Pride rules, judges place less emphasis on takedowns. Instead, they look more for aggression and how much damage each fighter dealt. The best way to win a close fight in Pride is to stay active with your strikes and submissions. Pride does not have a must-scoring system, so the judges will look at the entire fight to determine the winner. Going to the next round doesn't reset what happened in the previous one, making it possible for either fighter to turn things around all the way to the final bell.